So just to clarify, not every single video I ever make from now on is going to be like yesterday's. Some people seem to get that impression, but no, that's not the case. Whatever I'm feeling when the camera's on me is what I'm going to express, no pretense, just the natural ebb and flow of emotions. So if I'm feeling sad, then I will show you my sadness. If I'm feeling happy, I will show you my happiness. If I'm feeling serious, I will show you my seriousness. And today I'm feeling quite serious, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you my seriousness. And so this is a perfect opportunity for me to expand on my playfully antagonistic comments about Richard Dawkins being an agnostic. Firstly, yes, I am aware of Dawkins' 1 to 7 scale, and that as a 6.99 on the scale, he would fall under the category, or the heading, or whatever you want to call it, the label, de facto atheist. But you see, using this scale as a means to label people brings us into really dodgy territory, in my opinion, because the general public's understanding of the differences between atheism and agnosticism differ greatly from the niche group that upholds this rather esoteric scale. In other words, for most people, Dawkins' scale is simply unknown. So in place of that understanding is a fairly generalised, basic understanding, and this is putting it in very black and white terms, but nonetheless, this is what Joe Bloggs walking down the street will think are the differences between atheism, agnosticism, and theism. So, you'll ask Joe Bloggs, what is atheism? And he'll say, well, that's the group of people that are 100% certain that God does not exist. Then you'll ask Joe Bloggs, what is agnosticism? And he will say, agnosticism is the group of people that aren't really sure one way or the other. And then you'll ask Joe Bloggs, what is theism? And he'll say, oh, that's the group of people that are 100% sure that God does exist. Like I said, it isn't as basic as that, and there are lots of different nuances and, subcategories of all these groups. But Joe Bloggs doesn't know that. So, going on the generalised understanding in most people's eyes of what an agnostic is, Richard Dawkins is an agnostic. If you said to Joe Bloggs, there's this guy called Richard Dawkins and he isn't 100% sure one way or the other, what is he? Joe Bloggs would say, agnostic. Like I said, I know it's not as simple as that, and I am going to elaborate on this, but that is just going to be what the average person thinks. Yet, as Dawkins states, and rightfully so, you can't really be 100% certain about anything in life. So that 0.1% sliver of doubt should really just be put down to intellectual honesty. He's just being honest to himself that you can't be sure of anything, so I can't be sure of this. So regardless of that doubt, he believes he should still be considered an atheist. And I get that. I understand where he's coming from. And generally speaking, I agree with that sentiment. After all, everyone should be allowed to be uncertain about something, yet still place their bets, as it were. But nonetheless, for the general public, the word atheist has so many certain, beyond doubt connotations that, for that very reason, I don't personally like to tar intellectually honest people with that brush. I just think it paints the wrong image upon them. And seeing as I really respect Richard Dawkins and enjoy his work and consider him an intellectually honest person, I don't like to promote him as an atheist. Purely because, in the general public's eyes, that makes him 100% certain. And he's not. So, with the sort of general understanding in mind, I promote him as an agnostic. But obviously it's not as simple as that. It's not black and white, so I will elaborate on this. So what I'm getting at is I've got my own scale that I use, and I personally feel as if this fits in better with what the general public's understanding is already. Richard Dawkins' scale is great, don't get me wrong, but it sort of does its own thing. which is cool. You know, this is all semantics really, but I'm just trying to work towards a simpler way of understanding this for Joe Bloggs. And so I think my scale achieves that. So this is nothing groundbreaking or anything, this is just simple stuff, breaking it right down to the core. So first of all, we have atheists who are 100% certain on the non-existence of God and are completely unwilling to consider changing their stance. Then we have agnostic non-believers. And this is someone that doesn't believe in God, but accepts that they can't be 100% sure. And so, if evidence arises to prove otherwise, they'd be willing to change their stance. This is the category that Richard Dawkins would fall into. Then we have a Socratic agnostic, who is someone that doesn't take a stance one way or the other. They recognise that there is presently no way to know for certain, and so they stay equally open to both possibilities. And this is the camp I fall into. Then we have an agnostic believer, and this is someone that believes in God, but accepts that they can't be 100% sure, and so if evidence arises to prove otherwise, they'd be willing to change their stance. Then we have the theists, who are 100% certain on the existence of God, and once again, just like the atheists, are not willing to budge in any sort of way. I really like this because this leaves all the intellectually honest people in the agnostic camp. The only intellectually dishonest people going on this scale are the atheists and the theists, which is symbolically so powerful because really none of us know for sure. And so, in my opinion, anyone that has intellectual honesty should be an agnostic. Yes, of course, you can be 3 types of agnostic. Agnostic non-believer, Socratic agnostic, or agnostic believer. Great. You know, it just makes it so simple. And it makes it really easily understandable for Joe Bloggs. Anyway, going on this scale, a lot of atheists and agnostic non-believers would consider the agnostic believer and Socratic agnostic stances as cop-outs too, due to their perceived perception of the probability of God being really, really low. However, even though I agree that probabilities should factor into decision-making to a certain extent, I don't think it should be the deciding factor. Like Dawkins said himself in his book, Climbing Mount Improbable, we're surrounded by highly improbable things constantly. In fact, we are one of those things. We are highly, highly improbable. But yet, here we are. So, to disregard the concept of God purely because, yeah, it's quite unlikely, that's just silly. So yeah, in my Pantheism 101 video, I did twist things slightly for comedic effect. I said that Dawkins is a self-confessed agnostic, and that's not entirely true, but in that twisting I was trying to make an important point. And the point is this, like I said earlier, I really, really respect Richard Dawkins, so I want to distance him as far away as I possibly can from the generally accepted definition of what atheism is. Because like I keep on saying, the average Joe walking down the street thinks that atheism is the 100% certainty on the non-existence of God. And like I also said, anyone that has that 100% certainty is being intellectually dishonest. And Richard Dawkins does not fall in that camp. So, going on the generally accepted definition of what an atheist is, he really isn't. I know he's defined specifically what he feels he is, a de facto atheist, but still, the word atheist is just dirty in my opinion. It's got so many connotations of being cocksure, 100% cocksure. And so I think we should just scrap the word atheism. Or you can continue using it, but only use it if you fall into that silly camp of 100% certainty. Admittedly, this is all semantics really, but I just think it's really important to set out clear definitions to avoid accidental misunderstandings between people. You know, one person says atheist in one way, another person says atheist in another, and then the waters are muddied and things become unclear all of a sudden. And we're talking two different languages and not even realising, and I don't know. I just think with my scale, it just breaks it down to a more basic level. And it, like I said earlier, it just builds upon what the general public already understand as the definitions. Instead of creating this completely different scale, it just adds to what we've already got. Well, maybe we just need to drop labels altogether, but that's another video for another time. That would bring up a whole new range of problems to overcome. So, yeah, we'll talk about that another time.